Some things are simply impossible, or at least very difficult to do in model railroading. One of those things is modeling a scene exactly as it appears in real life, and this includes the size of the scene in question. So how do all of those great model railroads pull off these great scenes when there's not enough space?
This video is brought to you with support from my patrons on Patreon. These videos would not be possible without them, and if you'd like to join the Patreon community, you can follow the link in the description below and join for as little as $1 a month.
Hey everybody, my name's Jimmy, and I'm drinking some of that store brand coffee today. It's the only thing I got in the cabinet right now. Dave Davis, though, is drinking Hy-Vee Donut Shop coffee. Jacob H. is drinking a small frozen caramel marble from Bigby with 2 shots of espresso, and he says it was a very long 24-hour shift. I've never worked a 24-hour shift, but I have worked a 15-hour shift back when I worked in TV, and those are long, and you do need coffee for that. Matt Coogan also says that he's drinking Zolo Roast Monkey C Monkey Dew medium roast with a teaspoon of mocha and hazelnut foam whip. He also has a question about where I sell my t-shirt. And yes, I do. I sell it in my Teespring store. There should be a little thing right below the video that you can check out some of the items that I sell. I'll also put a link up at the top in the description, so be sure to check that out. Okay, so probably some of you have guessed it by now, but we're talking about selective compression. Now, selective compression uses several different illusions and techniques that pick and choose what you want to keep perfectly at scale and what you want to compress in order to make a scene fit into your space. The first thing you can do is utilize your backdrop in this situation. We think most of the time as adding the appearance of distance behind a model is what a backdrop does, but you can also use this to extend a scene. Check out some of these photos from submissions from virtual model railroads. These scenes are made larger than the space that they reside in by using well-done artwork and things placed on the backdrop that pull your eye and make you think that it's further than it really is. Now you can see in this photo, the industry is extended by the backdrop. Backdrops are a great way to extend your scene with nearly no additional space. If you do have some additional space, you can use something like this, which is a kit from Walthers. These are building fronts, and they basically just model a certain size of it, and basically you have like a little tiny section, but these go right up against the backdrop or the edge of a layout, and these are really, really great for extending your scene and making it seem like there's something more out there. So there's a lot of things you can do involving the backdrop to selectively compress what you are doing and make your scenes look larger than they really are. Now, the second technique is leading the eye. Now, leading the eye lets your imagination fill in the rest. On my layout, I actually have an entire lumber yard that is almost entirely off layout. The only thing on the layout is a loading area. I actually built this thing for my Model Railroad Hobbyist Train Masters TV show, so I'll put a link to that in the description below. But this leaves most of the lumber yard completely in the imagination of the operator, but it serves the same purpose. It's a place for cars to go to and an industry to serve on my layout. The most important part to get right is the area where the trains will be interacting with the industry itself. It's great to get everything right, but the most important part is that area where the trains interact. And if you do something like what I did here, you can just model that area and leave the rest to the imagination. Now, the most common way of leading the eye is modeling a narrow area around the railroad right away. Now, you may not have enough space for an entire town, so you just pick the part that's next to the tracks and let people imagine the rest of the town. So you see that a lot. You'll see like a little downtown strip right next to where there's either a platform or a train station, and then you see nothing else. That's selective compression of an entire town. You're representing a destination just by a tiny area that's right near the model railroad tracks. And the third technique is breaking the line of sight. This really applies to your track plan and how you build your scenery around it. Breaking the line of sight with your trains running adds mystery and curiosity as to where the trains are going. This adds the feeling of your layout being larger than it appears. I use mountains to really break up my line of sight and let the train be kind of mystery where it's going. And I also have a couple of buildings that'll break a little bit of line of sight as well. That's right. You don't have to do this with just hillsides and trees and things like that. You can do this with buildings. You can have large buildings that the trains weave in and out of, especially if you're modeling a more urban industrial setting. That is another great way to do some selective compression by making your layout feel larger than it is and making the trains feel like they're going a further distance than they are, is that breaking the line of sight. Now, I want to hear how you use selective compression on your layout. Do you have an industry that you've made feel larger than its footprint? Leave that in the comments below, as well as the type of coffee that you are drinking. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.